exactly. Oh, look at your background. Okay, I'm digging this. Yes, I heartily approve. Let me just go into gallery view. Okay. Yes, fantastic indeed. You have a Big Daddy, I have a lamp. Amazing. That'll be the thumbnail. Um,
Yes.
so it is late there. First of all, I seriously appreciate you making the time,
Yeah.
and also, yeah, wanting to jump on after Muse had to duck out. Do you call her Muse or what's?
Yes. Because we actually met at our local con
Okay.
last year.
Oh, okay. I dig that.
She was dressed up as Elizabeth, and I was little sister, and then my
Yeah.
fiance is Big Daddy.
I need to, okay, please pass on a giant, literal Big Daddy hug to your Big Daddy husband, man. Because that's not only amazing, but like I also saw the whole like wedding thing. It's like adorbs to the max. So congratulations. That's
Aw, thank
amazing.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, my costume is a lot easier than this because
Yeah.
not only is it heavy, but it's also like a hot box. So he's just
And,
walking around in a sauna.
yeah, I can
It's a
imagine.
stressful cosplay.
Okay. Well, it's worth it, I'm sure, because it's just,
Hmm.
I think in terms of video games iconography, and this is not like smoke blowing, I would say that alongside whatever, like, Splinter Cell with the sort of the three kind of like glowing green lights, and then Master Chief, and all these like icons of video games, it's like just that silhouette of the Big Daddy and the little sister is just so like burnt into the brain of like in the interactive art form kind of thing. It's just and
Hmm.
and I don't think they even were probably maybe planning for that, but it is just so distinctive. And it's yeah, like I know you're not you said that you're mostly in the Bioshock 1 and 2 sphere, but I know, like, just
Yes.
because I have the book, The Art of Bioshock Infinite. When Ken Levine, you could tell he was like, well, I've kind of done that and I've created that iconography, so what does a different setting look like? And Songbird is absolutely like a tribute, to the Big
Oh,
Daddy.
agreed.
So,
It's just the
yeah.
style of Rapture has my heart. Like
Yeah.
this diner is only like 20 minutes from my house.
Oh, that's amazing. Yes. Also, yeah, and yeah, like this isn't smoke blowing either, but the little sister that you have there, it's you look like in-world viable. Like that's sometimes there's a dividing line, there's a very clear delineation between what looks cosplay and someone also who, if I was like a casting director, like you look like a Rapture person, just like vibe wise, absolutely. And
I
you,
actually posted something earlier and I
yeah.
was just like, I'm not wearing any makeup and it looks like I have like dead makeup on.
No.
And I was like, great.
I meant, you're silly. I meant in that 20s way. You have a 20s vibe to you. Silly.
Oh, I
You know?
love anything vintage.
Okay, amazing. I dig it. And also I dig the shirt as well. That is a
Thank
very,
you.
very, yes, very dig the console. You know what? Let's address it at the outset. So, to the listeners who I was occasionally, I think I was responding to some comments and saying that we'd have you and Muse.luft on the show. Muse actually had to duck away for this one. And going forward, I think by the sounds of it, nothing serious, nothing crazy. It's just, life stuff. So it's,
Mhm.
so it'll be myself. And how would you like me to, what would be the name you'd like me to refer to you as?
You can call me Erica.
Erica?
My
Okay,
handle is Hoppalockadoc. I know
I
it's not the
love.
easiest thing to say.
You don't understand. As a lover of alliteration, like Hoppalockadoc is just like
Because I got
Hoppalockadoc.
so tired of every other username being taken. So I was like, I'll make up a word. And then I somehow arrived at that. And it's
Great.
just stuck ever since because I know it's not taken. It's my
Yep.
handle for everything.
And Hop is great. Hop is well now, Jesus. Okay, let's barrel straight in. No, let's barrel straight in because you have to seize these moments when they come up. So I thought of Hop. I love free association. So I would love like we have to talk about Bioshock, the next one that has now
Mhm.
recently been confirmed to have. It's in the job listings over at Cloud Factory. It is going to have a different setting. As soon as you said Hop, I was like giant mechanical bunny rabbits, like that
The
that
steampunk. Yeah.
yes, that like hunt you down, and so Ken Levine was actually hired at some point, probably over 5 years ago. I think it's dissolved, but he was going to do a script for the Logan's Run remake. Do you know about Logan's Run at all? If you don't, that's okay. So
No.
Logan's Run, it featured the guy who plays Basil in Austin Powers. Do you know Austin Powers?
Yes.
Okay, so the guy who plays Basil Powers or whatever, I don't know, like Austin Powers' boss, you think he's like a comedic actor? He is now, but back in the day, he starred in. I highly you and what was your husband's name? Sorry,
His name is Mert.
Mert. Okay, you and
Yeah,
Mert
he's
need
Turkish.
you. Oh, that's
Got the
beautiful.
little accent.
No, my fiance and I went to Turkey in 2016. So beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
like and the
I
ice
have
cream.
yet to go. Once COVID settles down, that's our
Yes.
first plan.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. Again, Bioshock taking place in like steampunk dystopian Turkey. Like that would be rad. Okay. It's just so like literally infinite. You've played Infinite, right?
Yes.
You know
Yeah,
that it
just
can.
I prefer 1 and 2 because that
Okay,
whole underwater
that's okay.
thing and this time period,
Yeah,
just love that.
vintage.
But
Yeah, yeah.
like Infinite, just the ending just blows you away.
It's like
And like
everything can happen, you know?
exactly, and that's why I'm so like I watched a few other people's videos of what they think could happen, and like there's everything from A to Z. Like it's literally infinite possibilities of
Infinite.
what could happen.
So, it must be so exciting over there, and it's so good to have someone to hype with. And sorry, that's in Australia we have the Wiggles, so I just do that. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, I was gonna say, so you and Nirt that you need to see Logan's Run, which was basically a proto Bioshock, right? Back in the '70s or the '60s, I think. Dystopian society.
System Shock.
No. So System Shock is the that's like the gameplay kind of aspect, and you know it has a bit of that nomenclature like Shock, Bioshock. But if you look at Logan's Run, like Logan's Run, I'll just say it now, like System Shock would had to have if we're talking about dystopia, obviously George Orwell is a touchstone, but in that fantastical way where you know there's the handyman, like handyman in Bioshock Infinite. In Logan's Run, there's the Sandman, right? And can I tell you like you find out super early in the it's an old movie too. Do
You
you
could
mind if I
spoil
okay,
it.
I won't spoil the whole thing, but the society this would have been on a poster if you and Mirt were like walking around in the '70s and be like, you kind of look like you're in the '70s too with the hair as well. And you'd be like, hey, what's that movie? And he would say it because those old posters used to have the little blurb. So it's a society where you only live up until you're 28. And then you go through an experience. There's like a big kind of event that happens, and then anyone who's 28 disappears, you know? And
Okay.
it's literally the whole it's like this giant city, very rapture like, but it takes place in this giant globe, like a big kind of domed city, you know.
Mhm.
So Ken Levine, being the Bioshock guy, he was writing between Bioshock 1 and 3 because he didn't work on 2. He was working on this script, and also Gore Verbinski. My God, we can you believe there's an alternate universe where there's a Bioshock movie out right now? Like, if everything fell into place, how would you have felt about that?
I don't know
I
because
know.
like it can either go really good or
Yeah.
really bad.
All right.
And I don't know if you are a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender,
I
but
have.
that
Yes.
movie, we
Yes.
do not talk about that
We
movie. It is
do
that
not.
bad.
It is that bad. So okay, this is my pitch, and very similar to Bloodborne. Are you big into the From Software? Okay, a little bit. I don't know.
I
Bloodborne.
don't know all the details. I know like the
Okay.
basic stuff.
So I think trying to turn games into a movie is always going to fail. You need to think about it.
Yeah.
Just forget it has to be series, because with games it is a sustained length, like a sustained period of time where you're playing it, which TV series have more in common with. That's why I have pretty high hopes for the Last of Us HBO series, which they've announced, because the whole thing that defines the game experience is that thing of you actually sit with the characters a long time. It's not like a 2 hour
Yeah,
period.
you
So
actually build a relationship.
that's
Like
right. So
The Witcher turned out fairly
yeah.
well.
So you and I could become, if we had an exec from Netflix right now, he would just crash the meeting. We would become millionaires in like 5 seconds because I have only like a handful of words for you. Prequel with Andrew Ryan leading up to the creation of Rapture. Like the
I
season
would love
one, yeah,
that.
exactly. Boom. The season one finale is like Rapture, like they cut the ribbon and it's like
Mhm.
no gods and kings, only men, and that's it. Season one finished. Season two picks up the first few years of Rapture and it goes well, and then season three is the descent into madness, and then
I
the
love
end.
it.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then
I've already thought about this because like this is the photo for Big Daddy, but
yeah,
I also did a different photo for me as little sister,
yeah,
and it was before I actually dirtied my little sister dress. So I did a what would they look like
yes,
before the procedure? You know,
yeah,
like just coming out of it, and it's like I I
yeah.
could go on in
Please
Rapture. Like
do.
it is one of my favorite settings.
It is so untapped, and they really need to do this. Just like how you know how Star Wars has like the original trilogy era, which they're always going to be making like stuff in that time because it's the classic era, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have other eras that are coming up now with future films. I think rap like Bioshock's home, just like Star Wars's home, will always be those first three, and that the equivalent for Bioshock is it's always going to be Rapture, that home. And in fact,
Yes.
with Infinite. Ken Levine basically said that in the narrative. Like he explicitly said it's like there always has to be a lighthouse. There always has to be a girl. You know?
Yes.
Yeah,
The what do you call it? The constants and like the variables and
yeah,
stuff. Like there's always going to be like the equivalent of the little sister Elizabeth, the Big Daddy Songbird. Like there's
yeah.
always going to be those similar things.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Well, you know what? Let's just jump into it. When, if you don't mind answering the question, and it won't be too interviewery. This is like if we had met, I'd be asking you this anyway. And you can also speak for your husband to be as well, your betrothed. So, when did you first encounter Bioshock, and what would you say is the core of your kind of kinship with the series?
So I was pretty late to the video game world, and when I was still dating my fiance, we were in GameStop. He was picking up some other game, and I was like, "Well, what's a game that I would like?" Because we had just acquired the new PS4 when it had came out, and he was like, "Oh, you would like Bioshock," and I was like, "Okay." And then I got sucked into it. I finished the first game in 3 days. I literally had a long weekend. I just sat there the entire weekend and finished it. I
Incredible.
was that entrapped in that world and just everything about it.
Did you like the
Like
soundtrack? Like Gary
of
Scheinman, come on.
course, when we go to the con, we actually have a Bluetooth speaker that we put in the back of his canister, and it echoes the music.
That is so amazing. If I'm actually going to be reaching out to Gary pretty soon. So if you wanted to, because again, I'm a producer. I'm trying to get hosts, and that's why you and News was the idea. It's all good. Uh, but I do. Would you want to be like speak to him and like chat with him on the Zoom
Of
call?
course, like
Yes. Okay.
it's actually funny because in 2018, Troy Baker was at our con
Yeah.
when I had released Big Daddy, and I couldn't like actually go and like approach him and talk to him and stuff because like my fiance was like dying in the suit. Like we have to keep moving for him to not like break down. Like if he stands still, it hurts for like too long.
Makes sense.
And like his assistant, I don't know if the photo ever got to him, but his assistant took a photo of us.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, uh, Zach Callison, the one who plays what's his name, Steven Universe,
Yep.
and then the other one from the Home Alone 2, the one that plays the older brother Jeff. They were at 2019 for our con, and they stopped me for photos and stuff because they were like, "Oh my god, like
I know.
Bioshock is just that beloved,"
I know.
and I was starstruck.
Oh, but they stopped you.
Especially
That's
because
amazing.
well, especially because when they come to the cons, you have to pay money to go up to their booth to take a photo with them.
Yeah.
They sent their assistants to come find us on the con floor and be like, "Hey, he wants a photo with you," and I was just like, "What?"
Right. Absolutely. I am so
But
yeah.
it's that beloved of a series. That's why it got a remake, you know, and why it's even being re-released. Like it just got released again for the Switch. You
Yeah.
know, like it's still living all these years later.
And it has what it really has that makes it even more special is like my entire inlet into interactive like art form games. I've you know I had my thing of growing up with it. You know, there's the Pokemon and a bit of Metal Gear and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
my true awakening into the idea of this being like the most lifelike medium, in that sense that because it's participative, you can create the most empathy and have moments like "Would you kindly," which do say a lot
Yes.
about choice and
It makes you
existentialism.
think.
It makes you think, exactly. Bioshock was absolutely at the heart of that for me because I started uni. and I just finished the army. I had like an accident in the army, and I was feeling super existential. And then I just listened to a bunch of metal, got a bunch of tattoos which I designed and stuff. And then in 2013, it's like, so I start hearing this news about this Bioshock game, and then I start hearing stuff about The Last Guardian, and start hearing stuff about the Order 1886, which looks like it was filmed in like steampunk London, or
Hmm.
neo-Victorian London. And Bioshock was at the heart of that conversation of the thinking person's video game, where it's
Hmm.
not just about the aesthetics and the gameplay, which are phenomenal, but it had some real things to say. And even Ken, he downplays it. He's like, look, I just wanted an interesting setting which was entertaining for me. In the meantime, thanks to Bioshock, we have the phrase ludonarrative dissonance. Like, it is part of that, the academia of games as well. And I just love that this fucking, it's so multifaceted. Like, you picked a good
Hmm.
one to be like so stuck into. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and like Bioshock and a few of those other ones that you named were like the real start of that. Because
Yeah,
nowadays, like Detroit, that
yeah,
that entire game is just making choices and having alternate endings.
that's
When they
right.
pioneered that.
They did, absolutely. And okay, I don't want to make you, please, like, if you have tissues nearby, please don't like feel bad. It's okay. I've processed it. But I had Would You Kindly Spoiled for me. Yep. So
Hmm.
I never got to experience that. Did you have that? Did you experience that?
I did not.
Wow.
That's one of the reasons like I'm so like attached to it. Like even like the stuff that I posted today, 'cause I actually got my little sister costume on to film stuff for my Instagram. But that was the first time I had it on in over a year, and I was like, this feels like
Yeah.
home. Like it's
Yeah.
a part of me, and like
Okay.
it's kind of like bad, but it's also really nice because
No.
like I've also been stopped at like Walmart and like other stores like Hot Topic, and they're like, I know you from somewhere. And
Oh,
I
that's
was
beautiful.
like,
Yeah.
Instagram, Kineticon, like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, no, that your guys are amazing.
Hmm.
And it's baffling to me because even though I discovered it a couple years ago, we've only been cosplaying it for 2 years. So for that amount of time, like, is unheard of.
That's
Because usually
incredible.
people, even though I don't have like a great following, like the people I do have, like they're hardcore about
They are.
it.
And this show also exists to give to signal boost like you, and also Muse when she jumps back on, and Justin. And would Mirt like to join at any point? Is he that? I mean, he's got that
He's
big
playing his own
dedication.
games.
Okay, as in not now, but maybe for a future episode. I think I will have to low key be like,
He's very biased.
okay, so he only
Like
likes the
he
first one.
really only likes like the open world games.
Okay.
Like the last game that he was really into was Red Dead.
Okay, so I started a Red Dead. I started a Red
Another
Dead
tangent.
podcast. No, that's okay. Again, I think we discussed this. Is like, my whole thing is not to even like consciously try and be anti-podcast, but it's like I forget any notion of wanting to contrive anything, and it's like, if however the conversation flows naturally, like that's just the reality of it. So please, we'll contain it for the we'll contain it for your sake, for the listener's sake. It's also late for you, so I appreciate it. But please let him know that I've started a Red Dead podcast, and if he's a big Red Dead person, like, let me know, and he can jump on that. That'd be rad.
Yeah, absolutely. I have like a giant poster over there on the wall.
Oh my god. Okay, too good. I'm just gonna close here because I'm already very white, so I'm just gonna close this.
Blending in with the wall.
I am indeed. So when did you meet our eventual person who will join and possibly host if she's able to do that? Muse, how did you guys meet? Apart from, you
um,
told the story, but when?
2019.
Oh,
So
lovely.
it was fairly recent, and we got pretty close. But we had recently acquired a 3D printer right before the con, and we were printing stuff.
Hmm.
Like I actually have this here, and that's another
Yeah,
thing. Like people have already made files, and we're just like, okay, print, because we're
great.
not that techy yet with it.
That's great.
But I had also made the little Bioshock logo.
Oh yeah.
And we made them in like this goldy color, and then I just put some paint over it, just kind of make it look more grunge.
Hmm.
And I was handing them out to the people who I knew, when they saw us, they were like, oh, and I was like,
Yeah.
yay, fan, here you go. And then they're like, oh, all over again. And she was one of them
Oh,
because she was dressed as Elizabeth, and
okay.
then her friend was dressed as Booker, and
Yeah.
the rest was history. We were like, oh, change numbers, like, oh my
Okay. That is
god.
amazing. This is reminding me a lot of believe it or not, my sisters, both cosplay, both craftswomen in that sphere, and I have in the, like like immeasurable amounts of respect for yourself and Muse and folks who spend so long like intimately bringing what is in this interactive non-physical sphere into the real world. And I think what is really magical about that is that as we grow older, this is really being dispelled a lot, which I like. Is like the lines are being blurred between like what is to be a kid, to be an adult, whatever. People just like what they like now, which I love.
Yeah,
And I love.
cosplay in itself has boomed in the past like
It's
four or
an
five
art form.
years.
It's a legitimate art form, and this is what, again, and I said this on the Fable podcast, is because my the host of that one, who I met recently, and we just did episode 2, Briarwood cosplay. Uh, we talked about how games and cosplay are basically siblings, is that they started with, people just getting dressed up, and
Yeah.
then you see some of this stuff now. It's like, because it's had this time to, game companies making the original files available, like for cosplay guides and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's just it
Heavily
really.
sourced those images.
Yes. So
I literally had to take measurements to get this to work because this
yeah.
is not a natural form. I
No,
had actual measurements and I was like, Dad, can you help me with this? Because the entire interior of it, as well as the cage, is all PVC.
yeah, I would imagine. Oh wow! Again, just please give him another shout out, because is he like sweating buckets in there and like losing weight?
Yeah, he has like 2 fans in there, and then when we walk around, we have to keep moving, even though everyone wants to stop us every 5 feet for photos. And
Oh,
then we're taking it on and off about every hour.
okay.
And I actually do have a video on my computer as well as on my Instagram if you want me to play it.
Well, let's play it right
Of
now.
the
This is
the
with the magic.
process of how it goes together.
Yeah.
Because that was the one thing. Because I don't know if you've seen Dead Exposure's Big Daddy cosplay. His,
Oh
I
no.
think, is the only one that's like way above mine because his is amazing. He did it out of the Eva foam. I don't have enough money for that.
It's so good.
This was a budget cosplay, believe it or not. It's all paper mache.
You're killing it. So let me look up this person. So what's their name?
Dead Exposure.
Dead Exposure. Okay, Dead Exposure.
Yes, at least that's what it was the last I knew.
Dead Exposure DF. Is that that guy there with the Fallout and stuff?
Yes, if you scroll far enough down, there should be Big Daddy.
Okay.
My only problem with his is that you have to crawl in from the bottom. There's just a hole there. Even though his is super accurate, I was like, I don't want it to piece together like that. Plus, in order to fit it in my car, I was like, how am I going to transport this? Like, my head was thinking of all these other things. Yeah, his is amazing. Wow. Mine sadly doesn't spin.
It's totally chill. And I think what I want to ask, and I'll ask, for me, it's a no-brainer. Have either of you, there was the anniversary, with the remasters and that, I think it was the trilogy that was done. Were you reached out to at all by like 2K and stuff for participation? Because I did see some of those videos.
No.
Okay, well, it is my express mission to make those connections. Like I'll just tell you now. So I'm speaking with the actress who played Freya in God of War at the end of the month, and just because of that increasing like always adding extra little nodes of contacts and networking and everything. It's something that
everybody knows everybody.
Everyone knows everybody. There's all that like follow this person, want to follow that. So I'm plugged into all of that, and let's just say that you don't know what you like. I'm serious. Obviously, there's no like any like obligation. As I said in the chat, what did I say? No pressure or obligations, only fun. Exactly. So that's very much true. But I'm an empath. My fiance would tell you about this. Is like I love signal boosting people who I really respect and I admire, and I want them to like succeed at what they're doing. So I can so really clearly see like Cloud Factory, like when they're looking for things like people to come to events and all that stuff. Like I want to be part of that. Say we're up to episode 50 or anything by then. It's like we will have been plugged into that sphere for enough time that there's that cross-pollination happens, and I've made those contacts, and so then I can just be like, okay, you guys are going to be doing a live podcast from there, dressed as little sister and Elizabeth, like doing
That'd be amazing.
That is like, I want to cut back to this clip in 2022 right now and be like, I want to do that. So no pressure or anything, but it makes me very happy to. And if you're on board for that, that's something that
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. I know there was a another cosplayer who does Big Sister
Oh yeah,
in Massachusetts, and she was like, "Hey, your little sister's awesome. When you're ever in my neighborhood, let's have a photo shoot together."
great.
And she actually has connections to one of those like maze houses that you go to, and you know they trap you in
Oh,
there and you have to get out.
the
And one of
escape
their
room.
rooms is Bioshock themed, and she has connections to it. But you know, COVID and everything, we just never
Yeah.
got around to
Okay,
it.
well, obviously, I mean, cat's out of the bag. Like, you're gonna have to go to that for like a birthday or something. Like, if Mir
Oh
knows
yes.
what's good for him, he's Okay, now I have to ask: will it be a somewhat Bioshock themed wedding? Like, somewhat, not crazy, not
um
overbearing, like all the
I
handmaiden.
don't know. I never really thought about it like that, but I'm actually going to wear my grandmother's wedding dress for the ceremony, and it is from 1950s. Like it is, and it fits me to a T and everything. And then I'll go to Turkey and hopefully get a second dress for the reception so that I can honor his culture as well.
Yeah,
Um,
my
but
fiance is from
maybe there
Bangladesh.
will be a couple nodes in there or something.
Yep,
Maybe the centerpiece. Nothing
that's right.
crazy.
We were talking
But
about this.
definitely more vintage. I love anything vintage.
That's so lovely. And your grandmother's dress, that's like beautiful. If I could have
Yes.
kept those connections to like my like Italian, Polish, French side, that would have been great. But all I was saying is that I know exactly what you're talking about, which is because my fiance is from Bangladesh and like Egyptian Bangladesh. So we were gonna do two, like that one where it's like the one here
Yeah,
in
we can't afford
Australia.
two.
No, but you know what I mean. Like as you said, you'll go there and like honor
You
his
try and do
culture.
both, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. I really dig that. So in terms of timelines, because yeah, things have kind of come together pretty quickly, as you said, only 2 years, and then you met News last year. So I think
Hmm.
that kind of brings us up to speed. So I decided to literally hop in early on with like setting predictions for Bioshock 4. I sent you that video of that up at 5, I think, that clip from the IGN.
Hmm.
I really like that. He went through a few of them. Did you check out any of those potential settings that they discuss?
Yeah, and then their video led to other videos. I went down the rabbit hole with so
Nice.
many different theories, and that's what I was saying. Like, because of the whole lighthouse theory, it's endless possibilities.
Okay.
Personally, I would love to see a Victorian era, but
Oh my
at the
God.
same time,
Yeah.
like, what if you had a new character that was essentially Elizabeth, and but you were her, and you had to go through all these different timelines to correct something?
You're, this is okay. That's fucking amazing. That's
That's
so
what I would
good.
want.
I mean, it makes
Because then
perfect
you're
sense.
not limited by any timeline, and you can just essentially jump.
Okay, so Insomniac, can you please get in contact? Because you saw Ratchet and Clank, I think it's called a Rift Apart. It was
Hmm.
the PlayStation 5 preview. Because of the power of next gen, it actually has video game levels built on top of and within each other, so that can actually accommodate gameplay where you're opening tears and going through them. I honestly think, how when someone has an idea that's so good that you'll get angry if it isn't that that idea. Oh God, playing as Elizabeth, going through all the settings, like really building on the end of Infinite, which is infinite possibility. It's like, okay, get ready for this. I'm glad you're sitting down. 2021 E3, whatever, we're back to normal, hopefully, fingers crossed. Moody trailer, whatever, cloud chamber appears if they want to be all like, freaking out.
Mysterious.
And but what you do see is like just like how like just trying to build some like mind's eye cinema for you. Maybe there's you get a sense that someone's walking through doors and like they're walking through different time periods again, 20s, 50s, 80s, 90s, or whatever, and it's like you find out at the very end that it's Elizabeth, and you are like gonna be going through across the
It would be
dimensions.
amazing.
It'd be
And
fucking
personally,
mad.
it would make sense because you have Rapture, which is underwater,
Yeah,
quote unquote hell because it turned into a dystopia. And then you had, Columbia, which is in the sky. So you
mm,
need that middle ground
you
somewhere.
do. That's
And we
right.
have that all of our decades that we could
Uh,
pick and choose whatever.
that would be if they really wanted to dive into the deep end, because they could be like, well, for our first crack at it, we wanted to kind of just dip our toes in, and we're just going to do this thing where it's going to be like, I saw an old IGN post which I haven't been able to forget. It was a pitch for Bioshock 4, which was set in a domed city in like the deep jungle, and it was going to do a thing of like a dictator like has decided because they're so rich that screw the rest of the world, and they just build this gigantic domed city with turrets and everything in the
I
middle
just
of
keep
this.
thinking Marvel, Wakanda.
Yeah, that's right. Oh goodness, exactly. Makes perfect sense. And then there would be, and I don't know why they said this, but it struck me as so there's the songbird for Colombia, but then this place would have the Cheshire, and it would be this like police kind of creature which would just kind of resemble like a cat, you know, and it would be this kind of almost like a steampunk kind of cat type thing. Um,
I'd like that.
that would, and it would be cool, and there would be that sort of
Or have you ever
Wonderland.
seen the movie El Dorado? They have
Oh,
the cat that's like out of stone from like the Aztec.
yes, that's right. I love that.
That because they're already kind of like in a jungle setting.
Who was in it? It was Kevin Kline, and it was just so fun. Do you remember? Do you remember when the world was fun before?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, 2013, everything was kind of starting to get wonky, and then after a while, it
Yeah.
just kind of,
Well,
after the Mayan calendar ended.
yeah, yeah. Oh well, okay. Now let's talk about that because a Mayan themed, Aztec themed Bioshock that is awesome. But I also want
Because
to
that would
now.
also explain like plasmids and stuff. Because you can, have the bees. Why can't you control rocks?
Yes, amazing. But also now we're talking about animated. I swear, like Bioshock needs an animated prequel. And like if whatever we talked about
If
earlier,
it
like
wants that big comeback that it deserves, it
yeah,
needs one.
I mean if Beyond Good and Evil is getting a Netflix adaptation with the director of um, uh, Detective Pikachu, which I quite enjoyed, and that was a really good translation. And I'll tell you why. It's
Mm-hmm.
because Pokemon doesn't have that. It's not too lore heavy, so they were able to just sort of use the setting effectively. But because
Yeah.
of how layered, like, give me a fan
And
casting
they meshed
for.
it very well too
They
with
did,
like the textures of the Pokemon because I know I was worried about that at first.
yeah,
My only problem with it was hearing Pikachu. All I could see was Deadpool.
yeah. I know.
That
I
was my
think,
only problem with it. Otherwise, it was amazing.
yeah, I agree. I think I had a like an actual dream come true moment at the start of that when they're in the field and it's him. You know, they're like spying on the Cubone. I was like, oh wow, this is an actual dream come true moment. Like I remember being a kid and being like, what would a photoreal
Yep.
Pokemon film look like? And it's like
Why
I
can't
had.
this be my life?
I know exactly. So I mean, but the thing is, I think I've seen some people do Disney-like renditions, especially as Elizabeth. She really looks like someone from a Disney film, just the design.
Yes.
But the little sisters as well, like you have what is it, Legend of Atlantis, like, or and also Treasure Planet. Like Disney
Yes.
has gotten really weird and steampunky and strange, and it just makes so much sense. It actually is kind of baffling to me why some studio hasn't approached Ken Levine and said, "Look, everything we see in those recordings that you pick up all throughout Bioshock One, like we want to do a series about when those were recorded and what happened when the recorder went like what was happening after the
In the
recorder pressed
moment.
stop exactly."
Mhm.
So yeah, would you? Okay, here's a pitch for you. So, would you want uh, a hypothetical Bioshock animated series to have like? Would you want it to explore a brand new area, like a brand new character? For example, like I would love for someone who worked really hard on the surface to like afford a ticket to Rapture, and we discover Rapture through this unknown character's eyes, like almost like a Rapture immigrant or trying to sneak into. Do you have a little story pitch for
Yeah.
that?
Well, because you have Johnny Topside who discovered it by accident. And
Yeah,
even though he is explored in it, it's still fairly vague. Like,
yeah,
he just went from discovering it, then being like, hey, well, now you can't leave, and then eventually making him into a big daddy. But there's
mm,
so many different ways that you could go with that. Or
mm,
even the little sister. I mean, I know they kind of explored it with Eleanor a little bit, but you could go from the whole burial at sea, like them being at the school, going through everything, to actually being infected and
yeah. It would be amazing.
towards the end.
I think if sometimes what would help is, again, I'd like to think in terms of pitches because I'm a producer. So it's like the board you and I would have, or if it was Muse was there, Justin, we would just be pitching and be like, okay, so take Penny Dreadful, take um, things that are currently out there, like Carnival Row a bit or whatever, like that have nailed certain aspects of what we would be going for successfully. Do you have touchstones currently for any series you've watched which you could pitch to someone and be like, hey, build on this? Is there something out there that kind of is like, hey, this person would be good to direct something Bioshock, like a Bioshock series?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah,
But I have seen the trailer for Carnival Row, and that does seem done very well
you would love
as
it.
well.
I watched it.
Yeah.
We watched it. The
I
missus and
pretty
I.
much love anything as long as it's as true as possible. Because
Okay.
that's part of the thing is like you want it to be as close to the lore and as realistic as possible. Hence
Yeah.
why this was such a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, like it took me over a year to build it. But if I went back through the photos because I took photos of how I did everything, and it took me like 6 months just straight.
It's so impressive. And so is that the big like the outfit? It can just can it stand on its own like as a like posed like
Yeah,
that? Like
actually, I have a video where I can show you because I had it at my high school art show a while back. It comes apart kind of like a capsule. Like he has his shoes, he has his legs, which are actually just like legs. They're not like actual pants. I have suspenders that go over it, and then you have the bottom piece that like goes up, and then you have the regular, not the dome. The dome is its own separate piece, but the rest of the top half, and then they meet in the middle, and
mm,
then the dome, it has the cage, and then it connects to that single bar over the top,
yeah,
and it just kind of all pushes together.
that's it.
There was actually another thing too is because I've been really big into Animal Crossing since
Oh, love
quarantine,
it.
and
Fantastic.
I'm in a lot of those Facebook groups that help each other out.
Yep.
And one of them was like, "Hey, yeah, no, I have a photo of you from one of the past cons," and it was me trying to push the dome back in place because it had fallen out because he's walking and it moves and it falls a little bit if you
Yeah.
stomps too much.
I love it. Oh, seriously, and I think there's a certain no, not even a certain like a full on passion and kind of magic to when someone. It's like me with the shows. Like to other people, I know for a fact that it would be exhausting for them to like manage 70 to 80 podcasts or whatever that I do. But and I would say the same in many ways for like folks that just have that. It's like you wouldn't think of anything to just chuck on like I don't know when you're creating stuff. Do you have a soundtrack? Do you like what do you play? Do you like play music or when you're kind of like sewing and making stuff or
Yeah, I have a little bit of ADD. It's not
that's
that
cool.
bad, but
That's cool.
when I get in that moment and I just have that idea and I can just run with it.
Love it.
And like I spent like a good month planning this because like I said, when I found those screenshots from the game, I had to physically measure like with a ruler like okay, it's this big, that is according to this size, about this size, and I had to like guesstimate a lot.
Yeah.
Technically he's supposed to be like a whole foot taller.
Okay. Yeah.
But even with me making his stilts, I couldn't make them too tall because with the weight and everything, it just wouldn't. He would have fallen over.
Yeah. If you think about it,
But
yeah.
you have to plan and really think and like. I remember the majority of it is paper mache. I had one of the like, it's googly eyes for the rivets.
Yep.
One of those had fallen off, so I pulled out my glue gun because in the canister in the back is all hollow, so I throw everything that I need in there.
Yeah.
And I was fixing it while he was taking a break, and there was somebody going to the photo booth who was like, that's why I don't like doing, you know, intense cosplays, because if something
Ah,
breaks, or if,
you
you know, you have
overheard
to be
someone say it.
prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and she's right, because you, when I even like this stuff, like my syringe, I pulled it out for my stuff that I did earlier because it was sitting in storage for so long. The hair gel kind of evaporated. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, no, I can
Like
see
it's
that.
still half full, but
Yeah.
I need to then crack it open and fix it. Like there's a lot of stuff
It's very
that
technical,
goes into it, and it needs constant upkeep like a car, and it needs
but
all
you
that maintenance and those
you
little
love it.
tweaks.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my thing is I spent, because I do the Avatar podcast, like I just redid a bunch of podcast art, and it takes like hours and like whole days to like make things happen, organize things. But I think that's how like a passion slash hobby slash, and I'm really manifesting this. Like you and Muse really do have the makings of like going into whatever it is with like a production I don't know, like would you if I'll just throw this out there, so you're a craftswoman clearly, if a Bioshock series live action were to be made, would you like make heaven and earth like part to like be a part of that series, like
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Even my parents, when I was building this in their garage, because they have more space than I do at my house, they were like, "Can you go work at a theater and do props or something? Like,
Yeah.
can you just get out of our garage? We want to put our cars away."
Yes.
Even like right now, I haven't worked on it at all, but I my next plan for a cosplay. I don't know when it's going to be finished because it's so massive.
Mhm.
But I plan on making the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Black Pearl, and I have a
Oh,
Segway with a cart attachment, so he's going to sit in it and drive the boat around, and I'm going to be Jack Sparrow.
okay, so I love that, and I also
Don't
guess
know
what?
when it's going to be finished, but it's in the progress.
Whenever it is ready, I have Pirates podcast in the wings because I fucking love that series. It's fantastic. So
Amazing. Love
I
Johnny Depp.
oh, love it. And so also with see, for example, just in what you mentioned, so Weta Workshop did the effects for the second one with the Davy Jones's crew. Weta Workshop, clearly you are so, I can just, my mind's eye cinema see you in like a behind the scenes thing of like talking about, yeah, so I started out in cosplay and like eventually, like just because of exposure and connections or whatever, I managed to like speak on a podcast with this one dude from Weta Workshop, and then I got an interview, and now I'm working for Weta Workshop. Like I
That'd
really
be the dream.
okay. Well,
And
that's
like my day job is I am a photographer, so I see those things and I manifest those things. Hence why this background looks decent, because I have my screen behind me.
that's right. It looks fantastic. Oh, and I want to see more of your photography and stuff as well, for sure.
There's some on my Instagram. I keep the good stuff for myself.
Hey, fantastic. It is a bit. What time is it there? I just want to check because I'm mindful.
10:45.
10 foot. How are you doing? How late do
I'm
you
good.
usually go? You good? Okay, fantastic.
Normally I go to bed around midnight. So that's why I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
just push it an hour earlier. That way
Yeah.
I don't start yawning.
I can dig that. I can dig that. Well, I just had, yeah. So this thing of theater production and like your parents being like, hey, make stuff, make stuff. Um, I just, we're talking about games that were made in 2007. I love them; they're beautiful. But 2007, and then also, I think it was 2010 for Bioshock 2, and then 2013 or 14 for 3. By the time that Bioshock 4 or whatever the new Bioshock is going to be comes around, those games will be over a decade old.
Hmm.
I think 2023, I think is going to be, because for them to do it right. With
I don't care how long it takes, as long as it comes out amazing.
it will come out amazing. It was so, and I want to ask you about how you felt when you heard the reveal and like the woman who's directing it, Kelly Gilmore.
I was just like, for real,
Yeah.
because like that's the thing, is I was kind of late to the video game world, and being immersed in Bioshock and just falling in love with it, and then being like, oh, there's no more.
I
Even though
know.
it has this community that's still very much thriving, I was like, oh, there's no more content. And then when they released that, I was like,
Yeah.
and there's somewhere in my Instagram too, there's a post, and I was like, I don't care how long, just make it as good as the first.
That, well, obviously I want this again to begin. If you call yourself I want to step into that, and if I'm calling myself the Bioshock podcast, and if there's any issues where they're like, you can't call, I'll just be like the Bioshock community podcast, whatever. Like, I want to be part of
Yeah.
when the developers, because when you're a fucking programmer, like this is something that is so weird that there's this. It seems like you've got a good head on your shoulders. I'm sure Mirt as well, is because like what a like a pod. like creating like a digital version of like whatever, like building a digital model and also building a physical model, they take hours and hours and hours and
Yes.
hours. And so
There's that YouTuber, I don't know his name, but his channel is Game Break. And
yeah,
he literally goes into the games and looks at them as they are constructed, and like you
yeah,
can see like the models are underneath the actual building until they're triggered, then they'll pop in, and like just how you can see everything works is amazing.
gives
And
you
never mind, just the time to actually work out, like, hey, well, this has to do this has to do that.
mm,
It's so labor intensive, and they don't get enough credit.
really. And so when you said that thing of like take as long as you like, I love that. And being, obviously what you and I do, I mean, I would say more for you because you're doing this physical act of like planning and I'm not undercutting myself. There's clearly a lot of planning around like podcasts and scheduling and Zoom meetings and stuff. But I think, and my fiance and I talk about this, each person, Muse, Justin, everyone has this thing, which is like for them, for that person, it is this thing that they could do all day and the rest of their lives, that it just doesn't take any
Yeah.
effort. And each person has like a special kind of something. Like for me, if I tried to do what you do, I would be like, I'm completely lost. Yeah. And so
Well, it's that twisted madness. Like,
yeah.
I often compare myself to Alice from Madness Returns.
Oh
How, like, in
yeah,
one minute I'm in reality, and then the next I'm like in Wonderland, because only I can connect those dots.
yeah.
Unless I physically draw everything out, like for the pirate ship that I'm building, I had to make it like a little paper model and be like, Dad, well, this connects here, this connects here. That way, when I take them apart, we can put them in the trailer and actually transport them. And then he was like, oh, okay. But in my head, I'm already like 20 steps ahead.
20 steps ahead. Exactly. So that makes me so grateful because it means that when we are eventually having some of these people from the crew, and this is so weird. I don't know if there's like a, it's just such a Black Mirrorism that we don't hear from programmers enough. We don't hear from people who do, and because it's like, it's not like, because I think I think the prejudice there is like, why would I want to talk to the level designer? They just design the levels, like, and I'm like, no, they designed the levels, like
Yeah.
they spent hours, and okay, I'll come out with it. I want them
like
to,
like Stardew Valley.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
that entire game was made by one person.
one person. So
And it gets a lot of credit because they're like, wow, one person did all that.
it's amazing. So
But
what
it's
I'm
like,
hoping.
imagine all these other games, how many people are involved and what it requires.
Mm, so and exactly, and what I'm hoping for is because I don't know if you have music or podcasts, but podcasts lend themselves really well to something you throw on when you have a big labor intensive thing to do, like cleaning your room or working on an assignment. So what I'm hoping is that as we go along, that we actually are sort of symbiotic with the developers, with their journey that they're on, that as we're releasing episodes, some of the programmers listen to us. Like there has to be at least
Hopefully.
400 people on that team. I'm sure at least one of them will want to be working on a Bioshock game and listening to the Bioshock podcast. Like statistically, that seems like that kind of would happen. Reaching out to some of those people, obviously respecting NDAs, talking with them, showcasing them, celebrating them because they don't get nearly enough credit, and then that eventually leading us to be able to speak with Kelly Gilmore and like that kind of thing. And all it needs really is for people to just knock on those doors and turn on the Zoom call. And I want to be there to be like, see you and you talk to Kelly and talk to her about like, so when you decided to go back to like Rapture in this sequence, why would you do that? Or like, what was the, I live for that. And for you, I'm sure when the earliest sketches are being done or when you're doing the earliest planning, you
The
already have, again,
concept.
yeah, 20 steps
You
ahead.
you have the end product, and then it's how do I get there?
Yep. So I know my end product with you and Muse, and it's to see you guys at the premiere, whatever, of Bioshock
That would be
4.
amazing.
Yeah,
But even if we don't get there, like my whole
I know.
thing is like, art is free. Art is for everybody. Art is for your soul.
Agreed.
There's like more comes out of brainstorming as a group than trying to hoard information.
You absolutely, and I'm learning a lot of that actually because I'm a natural introvert, and this is almost kind of healing my introversion a little bit. Not that introversion is something to be healed from. It's just it's helping me not stay too into my shell. Yeah, it's about,
You
but
gotta come out of the box every now and then,
I
and then you can
gotta.
go right back.
Exactly. Would you call yourself an introvert as well? A bit?
I think I'm more of an omnivert,
Yeah,
which is kind of
ambivert.
in the middle,
Yeah.
because like when somebody's, because I'm also very an empath, and like whatever somebody's aura is, you know, if they're really high energy, I'll be high energy, and then when
Yeah.
they're not, I won't be. So it all depends. And then it's when I have to deal with people that I'm like, you're not really my speed. Then my battery drains, and I need to go be an
Good.
introvert.
Yeah, you and Mitch already sound like family. Like Ray and I, when we met, we were like, "Are you done with bullshit people?" She's like, "I'm done with bullshit people." And we kind of only really hang out with people who like are so on top of their like emotional intelligence. They know how to read a room. So many
Yes.
people don't know how to read a room and be like, "Can you just, uh, you know?"
That is my entire job, because I actually photograph newborns at the hospital at my
Oh,
job. So I
okay.
walk in and mom's, you know, like just had a baby, because I'm handling 24 to 48-hour-old babies.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's just like, now is not a good time. You don't need to say anything. I'll be back later.
yeah, that's cool. That's a kind of a cool job, but I'd be
I
too
think I have the
tempted.
best job in the hospital.
It's pretty freaking cool. And also, and like, mad props to anyone working in that environment with like, I don't know, masks and stuff. Like, you have
Yeah,
even more
unfortunately, because
respect.
we're
Yeah.
not medical, they've kicked us out for now.
Oh
But
yeah.
even the moms, they're like, where are they? We want photos of our newborns. Because you
Yeah.
can only photograph them for the first 2 weeks. After that, they discover that they have limbs, and they're kind of like, ah.
That's really sweet. Oh, beautiful. Well, we are coming up to the hour. Um, did you have any last things you wanted to make sure that you got in just on this first kind of the like in earnest, like the podcast basically launching as it is going to be in the next few however long leading up to Bioshock 4? Any other things you want to kind of riff about before I see you off into the rest of your evening?
um, Not really. Because, like I said, there's so many possibilities. It could really go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I would love to see something where, you know, they did underwater and, you know,
Yeah.
sky. So something on Earth would be cool.
It
And to have
seems.
to jump through the time periods. Like, I understand if they do it kind of all in one game, like all throughout all the different periods, it's like, okay, we made four, that's it. You kind of almost hit a dead end. But at the same time, it's like, well, we don't need to do it too little, you
Yeah.
know, because we want it to be good, and, you know, quench that thirst of, well, we know we need to think about stuff after you're done and you put down the controller.
Yeah. That's right, exactly. And I really am hoping for them to not take it too easy. I know for example, I got so relieved when I heard that they weren't going to do anything like a reboot or where they said it's going to be a new setting. I'm like, that's fair enough. Listen to my friend Erica. She's saying take as much time. There's thousands, there's millions of Ericas being like, please just like do not rush
Do it
it,
justice.
do it justice. And I think some of the pedigree is very, very encouraging. The people, and it's the idea of a brand new studio being built for it. That's really fucking cool. Like
Yeah, for it to be dedicated.
dedicated,
Like, this
exactly.
is your only purpose.
Yes, you
Do a
are
good job.
exactly, exactly. So I'm gonna make a random. I like to kind of sometimes, you know, how when you're sending emails, I'm an old man, so uh, in the PSs of every email, I always send like a movie recommendation or whatever. So and I treat my podcast as like big kind of vocal emails anyway. So have you seen the film Mirror Mask by any chance?
No.
Okay, so Jim Henson company, they made a movie. It's there's some interesting stuff there for real. It's Jim Henson, and it's if you enjoy like Narnia and not Neverending Story. What's the other one? Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
And if you like Cirque du Soleil as well,
hmm
it has a and you know Alice, like as you said, like yeah,
Alice Madness Returns. Ah,
I think
I'm so excited that they're still working on another one, and that's been, they announced that like I don't even know how many years ago, and they're still working on it, and they're getting there, but they're still not there yet.
well, I do have the Wonderland podcast, so I'll leave you on that. Well, look, this has been again. Every time I vibe things out with a host or guest, whatever. There's no pressure. It's always a teensy bit of a roll of the dice, but I don't say this too freely, but I really couldn't have hoped to have meet a more like um, vibey, cool, knowledgeable, erudite, and super just like not just talented, but just with this real sense of you're the real deal with this. Like you are ride or die Bioshock.
Yeah.
Like you are that person. But you also have like an interest in the academic side and in the philosophical existential side, and it's like you're so well rounded. And like I find people who aren't well-rounded to be kind of just boring and not really fun to work with. So it feels like, just like as you're saying, the series can go in infinite directions. I feel like you as a host, that lends itself perfectly to where we can go with the podcast. So, but always no pressure at all. And but yeah,
Thank you.
I couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happy with who I found.
Yeah, I was nervous because like I was like, what is
Ah,
it? What is he gonna ask? What are we gonna talk about? But everything was so natural.
yeah, exactly. Because we just met in your diner. I feel like I was just there
Yes.
for like about. Yeah, I'm just gonna. Do they do chai latte? Because I'll just order one right now.
I don't know. They did a lot of stuff. It was hilarious because I was like, "Hey, if I come and take photos of your diner because
Yeah.
their website was so outdated, would you let me take photos for a project?" And they were like, "As long as it's nothing political." And I was like, "Nope, it's a video game."
Exactly. I'm gonna leave you on a hype note right now, okay? Because this is how we always should. I would always strive for this. Never contrive, but this one just came to me. So glad you're sitting down. Final Fantasy in Japan, they have themed bars. I am manifesting
Mhm.
this for you. There's going to be a Rapture themed bar somewhere. You're
That
gonna
would
be
be
either the
amazing.
you. I mean, you have to own it. Like, would you own it? Would you like teach yourself skills to like
Yeah,
run a?
I know there's one in New York City that is basically like Jekyll and Hyde and like Halloween themed.
There you
Like
go.
they have the stage with like the little characters that drop down and do stuff, and then all of the different waiters have different personalities and stuff. That could be all the little sisters, like so many different ways. And then like their entire whole 1950s like diner style, like
Yeah.
uh,
And guess how you get to this hypothetical and soon to be realized restaurant?
an
You take.
elevator that's like an LED screen with all the waterworks. Yes.
Yep. Okay, so there's a fuck ton of stuff to talk about. It has been such a pleasure. This has been one of my favorite recordings, and I don't say that lightly. It's been
Oh,
really
thank
cool.
you.
Yep. Giant hug to the Big Daddy himself. Tell him
Yes.
about Red Dead and have a lovely. Oh my gosh, uh, I'm really hoping for the rest of 2020 to be chill and for like lovely.
Hopefully.
Exactly. So,
At least if it ends at 2020, New Year's, we start fresh, then I'll be happy with that.
terrific. All right, well, I'll get editing on this one and I'll send you the finished thing soon, okay? Rad. All right, have a fantastic rest of the I mean it's the weekend for you tomorrow, right? Saturday?
Yes.
Yep, fantastic. Have a super chill Sunday. Big hugs to all of you and yeah, great to meet you as well. Yeah, we
Thank you.
first
You as
episode.
well.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.